a 48-hour ultimatum, the threat of war, and American troops right on the brink of what one official called an absolute disaster. So today, we're going to break down the explosive claims from a Midas Touch report that paints a picture of a rapidly escalating crisis between the United States and Iran. Let's get right into it. Right off the bat, the source report just sets the stakes with this really chilling assessment from an official. I mean, it's just one sentence, but it hangs over this entire story. It suggests we're not just talking about some limited strike, but a military action that could be, well, completely catastrophic. This is the tension we really need to unpack. So what does a disaster like this actually look like? Well, according to the report, it's not some far-off hypothetical. To really get the gravity of the situation they're describing, we have to look at the specific military plans and the potential consequences that are being alleged. Okay, so the report gets really specific here. It pinpoints a target, Iran's Karg Island. This is a critical hub for their oil exports in the Persian Gulf. And the allegation is that a ground operation to actually capture this island isn't just a possibility, it's something that could happen pretty soon. That would force a direct, head-on confrontation. And that grim forecast for an operation like that, wow. The source cites a report from The Atlantic, which describes an invasion of Karg Island as, and this is a quote, throwing our Marines into a meat grinder. Basically, they'd be facing everything from ballistic missiles to drone attacks, all while being a long way from any real logistical support. All right, so what kicked this whole high-stakes situation off in the first place? The report says it all centers on this incredibly dramatic ultimatum, and it involves one of the world's most vital maritime choke points, the Strait of Hormuz. You know, where a huge chunk of the world's oil passes through every single day. And this is where you see the core conflict laid bare. The source claims a direct demand was made. Iran had 48 hours to just hand over control of the Strait of Hormuz. And if they didn't, the alternative was attacks on their civilian energy infrastructure. Iran's reported response was, you guessed it, a swift and total rejection. Now, the defiance wasn't just political. According to the source, it was personal. The report highlights this quote from a spokesperson for the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. I mean, he used Trump's own famous catchphrase to mock and dismiss the whole ultimatum. The source points to this as a pretty unprecedented public taunt of a sitting U.S. president. But you know, this isn't just about high-level politics and posturing. The source claims this crisis is having a profound impact on the ground, specifically on the U.S. troops being deployed to the region. So let's take a look at the sentiment they're reporting among them. According to the report, the mood among the troops is, well, dire. They're described as absolutely livid, really frustrated by what they see as a lack of clear goals, and feeling like they're being used as political pawns in a conflict they just don't understand. And what's really crucial here is that this isn't just some high-level dispute. It's reportedly causing a serious crisis of morale right on the front lines. And this quote, wow. It's originally from a Huffington Post report that the source cites, and it just really gives a voice to that feeling. It captures this deep-seated frustration and a real questioning of the whole purpose of their mission. And it directly links it to the regional alliances at play. And it's not just the troops feeling this way, according to the source. Look at this number. A staggering 66% of the American public reportedly views this developing conflict not as some kind of necessity, but as a war of choice. Yeah, this is way more complicated than just two sides facing off. The report really emphasizes that this is a complex web of international players, and every single one has their own stake in how this turns out. So let's take a look at who's involved and where they reportedly stand on all this. Okay, so let's break down who's who in this whole thing. The source claims Israel is supportive of a wide-scale attack. So in response, Iran is threatening U.S. allies throughout the region. Meanwhile, you've got NATO, who's reportedly unable to confirm key intelligence claims from Israel, which creates a really dangerous information gap. And then there are the Houthis in the Red Sea, kind of positioned as a wild card, just waiting for a signal from Iran to potentially open up a whole other front. And just to really drive home that claimed alliance between the U.S. and Israel, the source highlights this quote from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. It suggests a completely unified front and joint action, especially when it comes to potential strikes on Iran's energy infrastructure. That could, of course, dramatically escalate the whole conflict. Okay, but here's where the Midas Touch report presents this just wild contrast. While this huge international crisis was allegedly unfolding, It claims the administration's attention was directed somewhere else entirely, specifically towards domestic political battles. So the narrative the source is building here is one of a massive disconnect. As that 48-hour ultimatum clock was ticking down, as troops were moving into position, the president's public focus was reportedly on social media and domestic policy. And they get into the specifics. The source points to social media posts about legislation like the Save America Act, public attacks on allies, a real focus on the word mutilization, and even personal insults aimed at the son of the former Shah of Iran. And all of this reportedly while spending the weekend golfing. And this direct quote, which the source says is from one of those social media posts, is what they use to really nail down that alleged disparity in priorities. The claim here is that this domestic legislation was being framed as more important than anything else the Senate was doing, even as a potential war was looming. So when you put it all together, the source material leaves us with this incredibly volatile picture. You've got a rejected ultimatum, disillusioned troops, a whole web of tense alliances, and a divided focus at the top. It paints a scene of a world just holding its breath, and it leaves all of us with one central unresolved question. What happens next?